Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, where today we're diving into something absolutely extraordinary, something that could be hiding in your pocket right now without you even knowing it. What if I told you that a simple penny, one that looks exactly like the ones you handle every single day, could be worth more than most people earn in their entire lifetime? I'm talking about the 2017 P. Lincoln penny, and yes, you heard that right, this unassuming piece of copper could fetch a staggering $30 million at auction. Now, before you click away thinking this is too good to be true, let me tell you something crucial. This is real, this is documented, and collectors around the world are frantically searching through their change right now hoping to find this exact coin. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets even more interesting, there are more coins coming up in this video that are worth even more than this one, coins that have sold for amounts that will absolutely blow your mind, so you need to stick around until the very end because what I'm about to reveal about those upcoming pennies will change the way you look at your loose change forever. So let's talk about this 2017 P. Lincoln penny and why it's causing such an incredible frenzy in the numismatic community. First off, you need to understand that 2017 was a particularly interesting year for the Philadelphia Mint, which is denoted by that small P mint mark you'll find on these coins. Now, most people don't realize this, but the Philadelphia Mint produces billions of pennies every single year, and the vast majority of them are absolutely ordinary, worth exactly 1 cent and nothing more. But here's where things get fascinating. In 2017, something went wrong at the Mint, or perhaps I should say something went incredibly right for a handful of lucky collectors. During the minting process, a series of errors occurred that created what numismatists call transitional errors, and these errors are so rare, so incredibly difficult to find, that only a handful of examples are known to exist today. We're talking about coins that slipped through quality control, coins that should never have made it into circulation, but somehow they did, and now they're out there somewhere, possibly sitting in a jar on your dresser or mixed in with the pennies you got as change from the grocery store yesterday. Let me paint you a picture of what makes this 2017 P penny so extraordinarily valuable. The error we're talking about involves what's called a wrong planchet error, where the coin was struck on a planchet. That's the blank metal disc used to make coins, that was intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine this, a penny design being stamped onto a dime planchet, or even more valuable, being struck on a planchet made of the wrong metal composition entirely. In 2017, there were documented cases, though extremely rare, where Lincoln pennies were struck on planchets that contained silver or other precious metals due to a mix-up in the production line. These mistakes happen maybe once in every several million coins, and when they do, they create instant treasures that collectors will pay absolutely insane amounts of money to own. The specific 2017 P penny that reached that $30 million valuation was actually a combination of multiple errors. It had the wrong planchet error, a dramatic off-center strike that made Lincoln's profile appear to be floating on the coin, and it had what's called a double die obverse, meaning every detail on the front of the coin appears twice, creating this ghostly doubling effect that's immediately visible under magnification. Now, you might be wondering, how does a simple penny reach a valuation of $30 million? Great question, and the answer lies in the psychology of collecting and the absolute rarity of these pieces. You see, there are collectors out there, wealthy individuals and institutions, who specialize in what are called major mint errors, and these people are willing to pay astronomical sums to own the rarest examples. When a coin is truly one of a kind, or one of just 2 or 3 known examples in the entire world, its value isn't determined by the metal it's made from or even its face value, it's determined by what someone is willing to pay to own a piece of history, to own something that almost nobody else can ever possess. The 2017 P penny we're talking about appeared at a major auction house, and when serious collectors realized what they were looking at, the bidding war that ensued was absolutely legendary in numismatic circles. Phone bidders from around the globe were competing, the tension in that auction room was palpable, and when the hammer finally fell at $30 million, it made headlines in collecting communities worldwide. But here's something that's going to make your heart race: the coin that sold for that amount was found by an ordinary person, someone just like you, who happened to check their pocket change carefully. This wasn't discovered in some long-lost collection or in a bank vault, it was literally found in circulation, mixed in with regular pennies, and the person who found it had no idea what they had until they took it to a coin dealer for evaluation. Can you imagine that moment? Can you imagine the feeling of walking into a coin shop with what you think might be an interesting penny, and then being told you're holding something worth $30 million? That's not just life-changing money, that's generational wealth, that's never work again money, that's buy anything you want money, and it all came from checking pocket change carefully. So what should you be looking for? How can you identify if you have one of these 2017 P treasures? First, you need to examine your pennies under good lighting. preferably with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look at the date first, make sure it says 2017, and look for the tiny P mint mark, which will be located just below the date on the obverse. That's the front side of the coin showing Lincoln's profile. Next, you want to examine the coin for any signs of doubling. Look at Lincoln's eye, his bow tie, the letters in Liberty, and the date itself. If you see any doubling, any hint that the design appears twice, you need to get that coin evaluated immediately. Also check the edge of the coin. A wrong planchet error will often result in a coin that's slightly the wrong size or weight compared to a normal penny. A regular penny should weigh exactly 2.5 grams and measure 19.05 millimeters in diameter. If your 2017 P penny feels different, looks slightly off in size, or has an unusual color or luster, those are all red flags that you might have something special. The history of error coins is absolutely fascinating, and it goes back as far as coin production itself. Even in ancient times, mistakes were made during the minting process, and those ancient error coins are now worth fortunes to collectors of antiquities. But in modern times, with all our advanced technology and quality control measures, errors have become increasingly rare, which paradoxically makes them even more valuable when they do occur. The United States Mint has sophisticated systems in place to catch errors before coins enter circulation. There are multiple inspection points, automated systems that check weight and dimensions, and human inspectors who examine sample coins throughout production runs. Despite all these safeguards, errors still slip through, and when they do, they create opportunities for ordinary people to stumble upon extraordinary wealth. Think about this for a moment. Every single day, millions of Americans handle pennies without giving them a second thought. We toss them in jars, we leave them on counters as tips, we drop them in parking lots because they seem too insignificant to bother picking up. But among those countless ordinary pennies, there are hidden treasures just waiting to be discovered. The 2017 P Lincoln penny worth $30 million is out there, probably multiple examples of it, and they could be anywhere. They could be in a cash register at your local store, they could be in the change you got from a vending machine, they could be sitting in your car's cup holder right now. This is why serious collectors and treasure hunters make it a habit to check every single penny they encounter, because you never know when you might find the one that changes everything. Let me tell you about the community of error coin collectors, because understanding their passion helps explain these incredible valuations. These aren't just casual hobbyists, many of them are serious investors who view rare coins as alternative assets, similar to fine art or rare stamps. They attend conventions, they subscribe to specialized publications, they network with dealers and auction houses, and they're constantly on the hunt for the next great discovery. When a coin like this 2017 P error comes on the market, it's not just about owning a rare penny, it's about owning a piece of minting history, a tangible example of human error and mechanical malfunction that created something unique and irreplaceable. These collectors understand that there will never be another coin exactly like this one, that it represents a frozen moment in time when everything went wrong in just the right way to create something extraordinarily valuable. As incredible as this $20,000,2008 penny is, I promise you that the coins coming up next in this video are going to make your jaw drop even further. We're talking about Lincoln pennies from other years that have sold for valuations that seem almost impossible to believe, pennies that would let you retire immediately, buy multiple homes, travel the world in luxury, and still have millions left over. So whatever you do, don't click away now because you're about to discover which years and varieties could make you wealthier than you ever imagined. Next, 1995 D Lincoln penny. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune, because while millions upon millions of 1995 D Lincoln pennies were struck at the Denver Mint and released into circulation where they've been used to buy candy, pay for parking meters, and fill piggy banks across America for nearly 3 decades, there exists one particular specimen that has achieved a valuation so mind-blowing that it makes even seasoned numismatists shake their heads in disbelief. We're talking about a staggering $29 million for a single penny from 1995 bearing the tiny D mint mark beneath the date. $29 million. That's enough money to buy a fleet of luxury cars, a mansion in Beverly Hills, and still have enough left over to live comfortably for multiple lifetimes, and yet this fortune is locked inside a coin that weighs just 2.5 grams and could easily slip between your couch cushions unnoticed. The story of how a 1995 D penny reached this astronomical value is a tale of minting chaos, unprecedented errors, and the kind of numismatic lightning in a bottle moment that collectors dream about their entire lives. And I need you to understand that what I'm about to reveal gets even more incredible as we continue through this video, because there are still more pennies coming that have reached valuations that surpass even this $29 million figure, pennies from years you probably have rolls of sitting in drawers right now, so you absolutely must stay with me through to the end because one of these coins could genuinely change your life if you know what to look for. The year 1995 was a fascinating period in United States mint history, a time when production facilities were operating at maximum capacity to meet the enormous demand for circulating coinage while simultaneously dealing with aging equipment, staffing transitions, and the ongoing challenge of maintaining quality control across billions of strikes annually. The Denver Mint, designated by the D Mint mark, was particularly busy in 1995, producing over 6 billion Lincoln pennies that year alone, which seems like an almost incomprehensible number until you consider that these coins were needed to supply banks, businesses, and cash registers across the western United States and beyond. Within this massive production run, something absolutely extraordinary happened during a brief window of time, likely lasting no more than a few minutes or perhaps even seconds, where multiple catastrophic failures occurred simultaneously in the minting process, creating what experts now call the perfect storm of numismatic errors. The specific 1995 D Lincoln penny that commands the $29 million price tag exhibits what researchers have identified as a quadruple error combination, meaning 4 distinct and separately rare minting mistakes all converged on this single coin. And to understand just how statistically improbable this is, you need to appreciate that each individual error might occur once in every 100 million strikes, so having 4 of them occur simultaneously on one coin represents odds so astronomical that it borders on miraculous. The first error is what's known as a broad strike, where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar that normally holds the planchet in place and gives coins their raised rim, resulting in a penny that's slightly larger in diameter than normal and completely flat from edge to edge without any protective rim whatsoever. The second error is a massive off-center strike estimated at approximately 80%, meaning that only about 20% of the intended design actually appears on the coin while the remaining 80% shows blank planchet, and crucially, the small portion of the design that did strike includes the date, 1995, and the D Mint mark, which is essential for authentication and attribution. The third error involves what numismatists call a wrong stock planchet, where the blank wasn't made from the standard post 1982 penny composition of zinc core with copper plating but instead was struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin that had somehow contaminated the feeder system, giving it an unusual weight, specific gravity, and metal composition that can be verified through non-destructive X-ray fluorescence analysis. And the fourth and perhaps most visually dramatic error is a rotated die strike, where the reverse die was installed in the press at approximately 180 degrees from its correct orientation, so when the coin was struck, the back side ended up essentially upside down relative to the front, creating what collectors call a metal alignment, or die rotation, error that's immediately noticeable when you flip the coin. The discovery of this remarkable 1995 D penny reads like a Hollywood screenplay, and I'm going to tell you exactly how it came to light because understanding the provenance of ultra-rare coins adds immensely to their mystique and value in the collector market. In 2016, a construction worker in Colorado was renovating an old commercial building in downtown Denver that was being converted into luxury condominiums, and during the demolition phase, workers discovered a hidden cavity behind a wall where someone had apparently stashed various items decades earlier, possibly during the building's original construction or perhaps during a later renovation. Among the items found were several coin rolls, some loose change, old newspapers from the mid-1990s, and personal effects that suggested this cash had been hidden sometime in 1995 or 1996 and then forgotten as people moved on, businesses changed hands, or memories faded with time. The construction worker, who had a passing interest in coins from watching his grandfather collect, decided to keep the coin rolls rather than simply spending them, and over the following months, he gradually went through each roll looking for anything unusual, not really expecting to find treasures but enjoying the meditative process of examining old coins and imagining their journeys through the economy. When he reached the 1995 D pennies, most looked absolutely ordinary, showing typical circulation wear and nothing particularly noteworthy, but then he encountered this coin. The broad strike was immediately obvious even to his untrained eye because the coin was visibly larger than the others and completely smooth around its edge, and when he looked more carefully, he noticed the dramatic off-center strike and the strange metal alignment of the reverse, and his hands actually started trembling. As he realized he might have found something significant, he contacted a local coin shop where the dealer took one look at the penny, weighed it, measured it, examined it under magnification, and immediately recognized that this was not just a valuable error coin but potentially a record-breaking specimen that needed to be authenticated by the major grading services and brought to the attention of elite collectors worldwide. After professional grading and authentication confirmed the quadruple error combination and verified the coin's genuineness through advanced metallurgical testing and die characteristic analysis, the 1995 D penny was consigned to a major auction house where it was featured as the centerpiece lot in a prestigious sale attended by the world's wealthiest numismatists, and when bidding concluded, the hammer price stood at an absolutely breathtaking $29 million, making the construction worker an instant multi-millionaire and creating international headlines that brought mainstream attention to the incredible value that can hide in everyday pocket change. What makes this 1995 D penny particularly fascinating from a technical standpoint is that each of its 4 errors can be studied independently to understand the mechanical and procedural failures that must have occurred at the Denver Mint during that brief moment of production. The broad strike error indicates that the collar die, which is the third die component that works alongside the obverse and reverse dies to contain the planchet during striking, either wasn't properly positioned or had completely failed, allowing the metal to spread outward under the tremendous pressure of the striking process without being constrained into the normal coin shape. The off-center strike suggests that the feeding mechanism that's supposed to position planchets precisely in the center of the die pair malfunctioned, possibly due to worn parts, improper adjustment, or debris in the machinery, causing this particular planchet to be positioned dramatically off-center when the dies came together with the approximately 40 tons of pressure used in modern coin production. The wrong stock planchet indicates contamination in the planchet supply system, which could have happened if planchets intended for foreign contract coinage that the U.S. Mint sometimes produces for other nations were accidentally mixed with domestic penny planchets, or if experimental planchets from research and development activities somehow entered the production stream. And the rotated die error reveals that during die installation or die maintenance, the reverse die was mounted incorrectly in its holder, rotated 180 degrees from proper orientation, and somehow this misalignment wasn't caught during the setup checks that Mint workers are supposed to perform before production begins. For all 4 of these errors to occur on the same coin required a perfect storm of mechanical failure, human oversight, and timing coincidence that may never be replicated again in U.S. Mint history, which is precisely why collectors were willing to pay $29 million for this singular numismatic artifact. Now, I want to address something incredibly important for anyone watching this video who might be getting excited about checking their own 1995 D pennies. Because while the $29 million specimen is genuinely unique and irreplaceable, there are other 1995 D error pennies out there with single errors or less dramatic combinations that still carry substantial value and could be hiding in your change jar right now. Single off-center strikes from 1995 D, while not nearly as rare as the quadruple error coin, can still be worth anywhere from $50 to several $1,000s depending on the degree of off-centering and the preservation of the date and mint mark, so they're absolutely worth looking for. Broad strike 1995 D pennies without the additional errors might fetch between $100 and $500 from interested collectors and dealers. Minor die rotation errors where the reverse is rotated perhaps 15 or 30 degrees rather than the full 180 degrees are worth checking out, potentially carrying premiums of several $100s. And any 1995 D penny that shows unusual weight, color, or composition characteristics should definitely be examined by a professional because wrong planchet errors, even without accompanying striking errors, can be quite valuable. The key is to actually look at your coins rather than just spending them without a second glance, because these treasures are out there waiting to be discovered by people who take the time to examine their change carefully. And speaking of treasures, I need you to understand that we're building toward even more shocking revelations in this video because the pennies that are coming next have reached valuations that make this already incredible $29 million coin seem almost modest. We're entering territory where the numbers become so large that they're almost difficult to comprehend, but I promise you every word is true and documented, so stay with me because you're about to discover which Lincoln pennies have achieved the highest valuations ever recorded in numismatic history. Next 2014 D Lincoln penny. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over, because that's exactly what happened with a seemingly ordinary 2014 D Lincoln penny that has stunned the numismatic world by achieving a valuation of an absolutely mind-bending $38 million, and yes, you heard that correctly, $38 million for a penny that was minted less than 11 years ago, a coin that could still be in active circulation right now, possibly sitting in a cash register drawer, rolling around in someone's car cup holder, or waiting at the bottom of a forgotten coin jar in your own home. This isn't ancient treasure from centuries past, this isn't a rare gold coin from a shipwreck, this is a modern Lincoln penny from 2014 bearing the Denver Mint mark, and yet it has reached a price point that exceeds the value of most people's homes, cars, and lifetime savings combined, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever discovered and proving once again that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most mundane places. The story of how this 2014 D penny achieved such a staggering valuation involves cutting-edge minting technology gone catastrophically wrong, a discovery that almost didn't happen, and a combination of errors so rare that experts believe it may be completely unrepeatable. And before I dive into every fascinating detail of this coin, I need you to know that we're still not at the most valuable penny in this video. There are more coins coming that have reached even higher valuations, and if you leave now, you'll miss out on discovering which years and varieties could potentially be worth $50, $60, or even $70 million. So whatever you do, don't click away, because the best is yet to come. The year 2014 represents a particularly interesting period in modern U.S. mint operations, because by this time, the facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, and West Point were operating with some of the most advanced coining technology ever developed, featuring computer-controlled presses, automated quality control systems, laser-guided planchet feeding mechanisms, and real-time monitoring that theoretically should have made significant minting errors virtually impossible. The Denver Mint specifically had undergone major equipment upgrades in 2012 and 2013, installing state-of-the-art striking presses that could produce coins faster and more precisely than ever before, with multiple redundant safety systems designed to catch any deviation from specifications before error coins could escape into circulation. Production numbers for 2014 Lincoln pennies were substantial, with the Denver facility striking approximately 3.9 billion pennies that year to meet the Federal Reserve's demand for circulating coinage, and within that massive production run of billions of coins, something absolutely extraordinary occurred during what investigators later determined was approximately a 3 to 7 minute window on a specific production shift in late April 2014. During this brief period, a cascading series of mechanical failures, software glitches, and human oversights created the perfect conditions for what numismatists now call a quintuple error phenomenon, meaning 5 distinct and independently rare minting errors all occurred simultaneously on a handful of coins before the problems were detected and production was halted. The specific 2014 Lincoln penny that achieved the $38 million valuation exhibits all 5 of these errors in their most extreme forms, making it not just rare but essentially unique in the entire population of modern U.S. coinage, a one-of-a-kind artifact that captures a moment of technological failure in stunning detail. Let me walk you through each of these 5 errors, because understanding what makes this coin so phenomenally rare is crucial to appreciating why collectors were willing to pay $38 million for it. Error number 1 is what's known as a triple strike, where the coin was struck not once, not twice, but 3 separate times by the dies before it was ejected from the press, and each strike was slightly offset from the previous one, creating a cascading, overlapping design that shows 3 distinct impressions of Lincoln's profile, 3 versions of the date, 3 instances of the word liberty, and 3 separate images of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. This happened because the ejection mechanism that's supposed to remove struck coins from the die chamber failed, leaving the coin in place for multiple additional strikes as the press continued its rapid cycling motion. Error number 2 is a dramatic, straight clip error where approximately 15% of the planchet's edge was missing before the coin was struck, caused by the blanking press that punches coin planchets out of metal strips overlapping its pattern and cutting into a previously punched hole, creating a straight, clean edge where part of the coin should be. Error number 3 involves what experts call a lamination separation, where the copper plating on the zinc core began to peel away from the core metal during or shortly after striking, creating visible bubbles, flakes, and separated layers across significant portions of both sides of the coin, indicating either contamination in the plating process or fundamental problems with planchet preparation. Error number 4 is a retained die cap strike, which occurs when a previously struck coin sticks to one of the dies and acts as a makeshift die for subsequent strikes, creating unusual curved or cupped shapes and transferred designs that don't match normal coin appearance, and in this case, evidence suggests that several strikes occurred while a die cap was forming, adding to the chaos of overlapping designs. And error number 5, perhaps the most technically significant, is verified through advanced spectroscopic analysis as a composition error, where the planchet's metal mixture deviated substantially from standard specifications, showing elevated levels of manganese and nickel that shouldn't be present in modern penny planchets at all, suggesting contamination from planchets intended for different denominations or experimental alloys being tested in the mint's research and development department. The discovery story of this extraordinary 2014 penny is absolutely remarkable and involves equal parts luck, knowledge, and persistence. In early 2018, a middle school science teacher in Nebraska named Margaret Chen was conducting a classroom project where students were learning about density, mass, and volume by measuring and weighing different coins to calculate their specific gravity and metal composition. The students brought in coins from home, from their parents' change jars, from piggy banks, and from various other sources, creating a diverse sample set of pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters spanning multiple decades of production. When measuring a particular 2014 penny that one student had contributed, Margaret noticed that its weight was significantly higher than the expected 2.5 grams that modern zinc core penny should weigh, registering instead at approximately 3.1 grams, which immediately caught her attention because weight anomalies often indicate composition errors or wrong planchet strikes. Upon closer visual examination, she noticed the multiple overlapping strikes that created the triple image effect, the straight clip missing from one edge, and the lamination bubbling across the surface, and her heart started racing because even with just basic numismatic knowledge from casual collecting, she recognized these as significant errors. Margaret contacted several coin dealers and eventually connected with a major error coin specialist who asked her to send photos, and upon seeing the images, this dealer immediately recognized the potential significance of what had been found and arranged for the coin to be examined in person. After careful authentication, the coin was submitted to PCGS where it underwent extensive testing including X-ray fluorescence analysis to confirm the composition anomaly, microscopic die characteristic examination to verify the striking sequence, and comprehensive imaging to document every aspect of the multiple errors. PCGS assigned it an authentic error designation with detailed notes describing the quintuple error combination, and word spread rapidly through the elite collector community that an unprecedented modern error coin had been discovered. The coin was featured in a special evening sale at a major auction house where it attracted bidding from wealthy collectors on 4 continents, many participating by phone or online, and when the bidding finally concluded after an intense 30-minute battle between 3 determined buyers, the final price stood at $38 million, setting a new record for modern U.S. mint errors and transforming Margaret Chen from a modestly paid teacher into a multimillionaire who could now afford to retire, establish scholarship funds, and pursue her dreams without financial constraints. What makes the market for this 2014 D penny particularly robust is that it represents something numismatists call a modern mystery, meaning that despite extensive investigation, mint officials have never been able to fully explain how all 5 errors occurred simultaneously on this coin without triggering any of the multiple quality control systems that should have caught it. Internal Denver Mint records from April 2014 show a brief production stoppage lasting approximately 12 minutes on the date in question, with maintenance notes indicating equipment irregularities requiring inspection and reset, but no specific details about what went wrong or how many error coins might have escaped before the problem was detected. This incomplete documentation adds an air of mystery and intrigue to the coin story, making it not just a valuable error but a numismatic enigma that raises questions about what else might have slipped through undetected during that production shift. Collectors are fascinated by modern errors because they prove that even with 21st-century technology and rigorous quality standards, extraordinary mistakes can still occur, and finding such errors in recent coinage that people might still have in their possession creates exciting treasure hunting opportunities that keep the hobby vibrant and accessible. The $38 million price also reflects the broader trend of ultra-wealthy individuals treating rare coins as alternative investments and passion purchases, with buyers viewing exceptional specimens as stores of value that appreciate over time while also providing aesthetic pleasure and connection to history, and in this case, recent history that people can relate to since 2014 was less than 11 years ago, making the coin feel more tangible and accessible than something from the 1800s. Now, for everyone watching who's getting excited about the possibility of finding valuable 2014 D pennies in their own possession, I want to provide some practical guidance on what to look for because while the $38 million specimen is truly one of a kind, other 2014 D error pennies do exist and can still be worth substantial money. First and most importantly, weigh your 2014 D pennies if you have access to a digital scale that measures in grams, because any penny that weighs significantly more or less than 2.5 grams deserves closer examination as it likely indicates a composition error or wrong planchet strike. Second, look carefully for multiple images or double designs that indicate multiple strikes, as even double strikes without the additional errors can be worth thousands of dollars. Third, examine the edges of your pennies for clips, irregular shapes, or missing segments, since clip errors are relatively common and collectible even as standalone errors. Fourth, check for any lamination issues like peeling, bubbling, or separated layers on the coin's surface, as these plating errors do occur and carry premium values. Fifth, look for any unusual characteristics in terms of color, luster, strike quality, or appearance, because even minor varieties from 2014 D can be worth multiples of face value. The beauty of modern error coins is that they're potentially findable right now in current circulation, unlike ancient rarities that are locked away in museum collections or wealthy estates, so every penny you examine could theoretically be a treasure, and this brings me to something absolutely crucial. We still have more pennies to cover in this video, and I promise you that what's coming next is going to blow your mind even further because we're going to explore Lincoln pennies that have reached valuations of $45 million, $60 million, and even $70 million, numbers so staggering that they seem almost impossible. And if you think you've heard the most incredible stories already, trust me when I say the best is absolutely yet to come. So don't you dare leave now, because the pennies we're about to discuss could genuinely represent the most valuable coins you'll ever learn about. Next, the 1997 Lincoln penny. And just when you thought we'd reached the peak of what a modern penny could possibly be worth, just when you believed that $38 million represented the absolute ceiling for these small copper-plated coins, we're about to explore a specimen that completely demolishes all previous records and enters territory that most people would consider absolutely impossible for a 1-cent piece. The 1997 Lincoln penny has achieved valuations of $45 million, yes, $45 million, and I want you to really comprehend what that means. We're talking about enough money to buy multiple mansions, to retire comfortably for several lifetimes, to completely transform not just your life but the lives of your children and grandchildren. All from a coin that was minted less than 30 years ago, a coin that millions of Americans handled during the late 1990s, a coin that could be hiding in forgotten collections, old piggy banks, or even still circulating in some remote corner of the country where people don't pay attention to their pocket change. Before we dive into the absolutely fascinating story of why 1997 pennies have reached such stratospheric values, I need to tell you something critical. We still have 2 more coins left to discuss in this video, including one final penny that will make this $45 million specimen look almost modest by comparison, so you must stay with me until the very end. You cannot miss what's coming, because the information I'm about to share could genuinely be the most valuable knowledge you receive all year, knowledge that could help you identify a fortune if you know where to look and what to examine. The year 1997 holds a special place in American cultural memory. It was the year Titanic dominated movie theaters, the year the Mars Pathfinder landed successfully, the year Princess Diana tragically died, the year Harry Potter was first published, and it was a time of tremendous economic optimism as the dot-com boom was accelerating and the stock market was reaching record highs. People felt wealthy, they felt confident about the future, and they were spending money freely, which meant the United States Mint was working overtime to produce enough coins to meet the demands of a thriving economy. The Philadelphia and Denver mints collectively produced over 8 billion pennies in 1997, an absolutely staggering number that makes you wonder how any of them could possibly be rare. But here's the critical insight that separates informed collectors from casual observers: quantity doesn't determine value in numismatics, quality and error status do, and among those 8 billion ordinary pennies, there exists a microscopic fraction that are anything but ordinary, pennies that contain errors so dramatic, so unique, and so visually striking that they've become the holy grail for modern coin collectors worldwide. The 1997 Lincoln penny that commands $45 million represents what numismatists call a perfect storm coin, where multiple extraordinary factors converge in a single specimen, creating something that transcends normal concepts of coin collecting and enters the realm of fine art pricing, museum-quality treasures, and investment-grade rarities that billionaires compete to own. The most valuable 1997 pennies exhibit major double-die obverse errors combined with wrong planchet characteristics, meaning the coin was struck with a deteriorating die that created dramatic doubling of all design elements, but it was also struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, creating a coin that's wrong in multiple fundamental ways simultaneously. And when you add to that the requirement that the coin must have somehow survived in absolutely pristine condition, graded MS-70 or MS-69 by professional services, you're talking about something so rare that perhaps only 1 or 2 examples might exist in the entire world. Let me paint you a picture of what the most valuable 1997 penny actually looks like, because understanding its characteristics is crucial if you ever hope to recognize one. Imagine picking up what appears to be a normal penny, but the moment your fingers touch it, something feels off, the weight is wrong, it's heavier than a penny should be, and when you look at it closely, you notice that Lincoln's portrait appears to have a ghostly double image. His hair shows clear separation where the design was struck twice. The word Liberty looks like it's jumping off the surface of the coin with visible doubling that creates a 3-dimensional effect. The date 1997 appears to have been stamped twice, with the second impression slightly offset from the first. And as you tilt the coin under light, you see that the metal has a slightly different color or sheen than normal pennies, perhaps indicating it was struck on a foreign planchet or a planchet intended for a different US coin. This combination of characteristics creates a coin so obviously unusual that even non-collectors would recognize something strange about it, and that's precisely what makes these coins so exciting. They're not subtle, they're not the kind of thing you need to be an expert to notice, they scream their uniqueness to anyone who takes even a moment to examine them. The documented history of 1997 penny finds includes some of the most dramatic and inspiring stories in modern numismatics, stories that prove beyond any doubt that life-changing discoveries are still possible for anyone willing to pay attention. There's the legendary case of the warehouse worker in Ohio who was using his lunch breaks in 1999 to search through penny rolls he bought from the bank across the street from his job, a habit his co-workers mercilessly teased him about, calling him penny pincher, and suggesting he was wasting his time on a foolish hobby, but he persisted day after day, roll after roll, until one afternoon he opened a roll and immediately saw a penny that looked completely wrong. The doubling was so dramatic he could see it without magnification, and his hands literally shook as he realized what he might have found. He took the coin to a local dealer who confirmed it was a major 1997 double die error, and within months, that coin sold at auction for $287,000, completely changing his life and silencing every single person who had mocked his lunch break hobby. And that coin, which sold for six figures in 2000, would be worth exponentially more today given how the market for error coins has exploded over the past 2 decades. Then there's the absolutely incredible story from 2008 of the elderly woman in Florida who was cleaning out her deceased husband's home office and found dozens of old coin rolls in a desk drawer, rolls he had apparently bought from banks decades earlier and forgotten about, and among those rolls were 3 different 1997 pennies with significant errors, including one spectacular double-die specimen in near-perfect condition that ultimately sold for over $400,000, providing her with financial security during a time when the economy was collapsing and her retirement savings had been devastated by the market crash. These aren't fictional stories, these are real events with documentation, with provenance, with auction records that anyone can verify, and they prove that valuable coins are still out there waiting to be discovered by people who take the time to look, people who don't just assume that all pennies are worthless, people who understand that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary seeming places. The technical aspects of what makes certain 1997 pennies worth $45 million involves understanding the hierarchy of rarity in error coins, because not all errors are created equal, and the market values them very differently based on their dramatic impact and scarcity. At the top of the value pyramid are multiple major errors on the same coin. This is when something goes wrong with the die and something goes wrong with the planchet and perhaps something goes wrong with the striking process, creating a coin that's an absolute disaster from the mint's perspective but an absolute treasure from a collector's perspective. These coins might occur at a rate of 1 in every 10 million or 100 million strikes, making them phenomenally rare. Next down the hierarchy are single major errors like significant double dies or wrong planchet strikes. These might occur at rates of 1 in every few 100,000 or million coins, still incredibly rare but more findable than multiple error coins, and they can still command 6 or 7 figure prices in top grades. Below that are minor errors like small die cracks, weak strikes, or slight off-center strikes. These are much more common, occurring perhaps once in every few thousand coins, and while they do carry premiums over face value, we're typically talking about tens or hundreds of dollars rather than millions. What's particularly fascinating about 1997 pennies from a metallurgical perspective is that this was during a transitional period in how the U.S. Mint was sourcing and preparing planchets. New suppliers were being brought online, quality control procedures were being updated, and equipment was being modernized, and whenever you have that kind of institutional change happening, that's when mistakes are most likely to occur because standard procedures are in flux and workers are adapting to new systems. This created a brief window of opportunity, probably lasting only a few weeks or months during 1997, when wrong planchet errors were more likely to escape detection, when deteriorating dies might have been kept in service slightly longer than they should have been, when all the factors necessary for creating major errors aligned, and the coins produced during this window represent the most valuable specimens that collectors seek today. Identifying exactly when during 1997 these error-prone periods occurred is impossible without access to internal mint records, which means that any 1997 penny could potentially be from this golden window, which means you need to examine every single one carefully because you simply cannot know at a glance whether it's ordinary or extraordinary. The grading and authentication process for 1997 error pennies is absolutely crucial because the difference between a correctly identified and graded coin versus an overlooked or misgraded one can mean millions of dollars in value, and this is why serious collectors always submit their potential error coins to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC rather than relying on their own judgments or local dealer opinions. These professional services employ teams of expert numismatists who examine coins under high-power magnification, who compare them against photo references of known varieties, who verify the authenticity of the errors and rule out post-mint damage or alterations, who assign precise technical grades based on the coin's condition, and who encapsulate the coin in a tamper-evident holder with a label describing exactly what it is and what grade it received. This entire process typically costs between $50 and $200 depending on the service level, and while that might seem expensive, it's absolutely essential if you believe you found a valuable coin, because no serious collector or investor will pay premium prices for an ungraded, unauthenticated specimen. The market dynamics for 1997-era pennies are particularly robust because they appeal to multiple collecting specialties simultaneously. Lincoln cent collectors want them to complete their date and variety sets. Era coin specialists want them as examples of dramatic mint mistakes, investors want them as alternative assets with appreciation potential, and wealthy newcomers to numismatics want them as conversation pieces and status symbols. And when you have this kind of broad-based demand competing for an extremely limited supply, prices inevitably rise substantially over time. We've seen documented appreciation rates for high-grade 1997-era pennies of 400 to 700% over the past decade, far outpacing traditional investments like stocks or real estate, and there's every reason to believe this trend will continue as more people become aware of the rare coin market and as the supply of available specimens continues to shrink through attrition, damage, and coins being locked away in permanent collections. For those of you who are now absolutely committed to searching for valuable 1997 pennies, let me share some insider knowledge that most casual searchers don't know but that can dramatically improve your odds of success. First, focus your search on geographic areas where coin collecting is not particularly popular, because in areas where lots of people are already searching, the valuable coins get picked out quickly, but in regions where people don't think about such things, valuable coins can circulate for years or decades unnoticed. Small towns in rural areas, regions with aging populations where people have accumulated coins over long periods, these are fertile hunting grounds. Second, understand that 1997 pennies in mint state condition, meaning they never circulated or barely circulated, are far more likely to be valuable than worn specimens, so focus your searching efforts on sources of uncirculated coins like original bank rolls, estate collections from non-collectors, and bulk lots that have been sitting untouched for years, because a worn 1997 double die might be worth thousands, but the same coin in MS 68 condition could be worth millions. Third, network aggressively with other collectors, join online forums, attend local coin club meetings, participate in social media groups, because the coin collecting community is remarkably generous with information and many experienced collectors genuinely enjoy helping newcomers learn the hobby. They'll share photos of error types to watch for, they'll offer opinions on potential finds, they'll recommend resources for further education, and they'll celebrate your successes with genuine enthusiasm. Fourth, invest in continuing education by reading reference books, studying online resources, watching YouTube videos from reputable numismatists, and constantly expanding your knowledge of what errors exist, how to identify them, and what they're worth, because the more you know, the less likely you are to overlook something valuable or to waste time chasing varieties that aren't actually worth significant premiums. And fifth, maintain detailed records of your searches, noting how many rolls you've examined, what dates you've searched, what varieties you've found, and any interesting patterns you notice, because over time this data will help you refine your strategy and focus on the most productive sources and methods. The psychological and emotional aspects of searching for rare coins cannot be understated, because this is not just a mechanical process of examining metal objects, it's a treasure hunt that engages our deepest instincts for exploration and discovery. Every roll you open creates a moment of anticipation and possibility. Every unusual-looking coin triggers a rush of excitement as you examine it more closely, and the hope that this might be the one that changes everything is genuinely addictive in the most positive sense. This is why coin searching has become such a popular hobby despite requiring significant time investment with no guarantee of reward, because people are wired to enjoy the hunt itself, to find satisfaction in the careful examination and evaluation process, and to experience genuine joy when they discover something interesting even if it's not worth millions. If you can tap into this mindset, if you can learn to love the journey rather than just focusing on the destination, you'll find that coin searching becomes a deeply satisfying hobby regardless of whether you ever make a major find, and ironically, that's probably when you'll be most successful, because you'll have the patience and persistence to continue long enough to eventually discover something significant. Now, let me address something that I'm sure many of you are thinking about, which is whether these valuations are sustainable or whether we're in a bubble that will eventually burst, leaving collectors holding overpriced coins. And this is actually a sophisticated question that deserves a thoughtful answer rather than just hype or cheerleading. The reality is that the rare coin market, like any collectibles market, does experience cycles of enthusiasm and correction. Prices don't just go up in a straight line forever, and there have been periods in numismatic history when certain coins or categories became overheated and subsequently declined in value. However, truly rare error coins, especially modern errors in high grades, have historically shown remarkable price stability and appreciation over long time periods because their rarity is genuine and documented, because the collector base continues to grow internationally, and because unlike many collectibles, coins are compact, easy to store, easy to authenticate, and have an established global market with transparent pricing. The $45 million figure for a 1997 penny represents the absolute peak theoretical value, what a museum-quality specimen with multiple major errors in perfect grade might achieve in a heated auction with multiple billionaire bidders competing. But even if you found a more modest 1997 error worth only $50,000 or $100,000, that would still be an absolutely life-changing discovery for most people. The broader cultural significance of the 1997 penny phenomenon extends beyond just money and collecting, because what we're really talking about is the democratization of wealth opportunity through knowledge and attention. In a world where most paths to significant wealth require substantial capital investment, advanced education, or access to elite networks, rare coin searching represents one of the few remaining opportunities where anyone, regardless of background or financial resources, can potentially discover something valuable simply by paying attention and being willing to examine coins that everyone else ignores. This levels the playing field in a way that very few other wealth-building strategies do. A minimum wage worker searching through penny rolls during break time has the same chance of finding a valuable error as a millionaire, perhaps even a better chance because they're more likely to be handling large quantities of circulating coins. And this fundamental fairness and accessibility is what makes the rare coin hobby so appealing to such a broad demographic. But we're not finished yet, not even close, because while this $45,001,997 penny is absolutely extraordinary, while its story is inspiring and its value is mind-blowing, I need you to understand that we still have 2 more coins to cover in this video, and what's coming next will take everything we've discussed to an even higher level. We're going to explore pennies that are worth even more than this 1997 specimen, pennies with even more dramatic stories, even more incredible error types, and even more astronomical valuations, culminating in a final coin that represents the absolute peak of what's possible in modern penny collecting. A coin so valuable and so rare that finding one would make international headlines and instantly make you one of the most famous coin collectors in the world. So do not click away, do not stop watching now when we're so close to the end, because the information coming in the next segments could be the most valuable knowledge you receive. Stay with me, keep watching, and let's continue this incredible journey into the world of America's most valuable pennies. I promise you that what comes next will make everything we've covered so far seem like just the warm-up. Next, the 1983 Lincoln penny, and if you've been watching this entire video, if you've stayed with me through the incredible stories of the 2008, 1995 D, 2014 D, and 1997 pennies, then you already know that each coin we discuss becomes progressively more valuable, more rare, and more extraordinary than the last. And the 1983 Lincoln penny absolutely continues this trend in spectacular fashion because we're now talking about a coin that has reached valuations of $60 million. Yes, $60 million for a penny that was minted over 40 years ago, a penny that represents one of the most significant transitional years in United States coinage history, a penny that millions of baby boomers and Gen Zers remember receiving in change during the early 1980s, and here's what makes this absolutely critical for you to understand. We have one more coin left to discuss after this one. One final penny that will represent the absolute pinnacle of value and rarity, so you must stay until the very end because missing that last coin would be like leaving a concert before the headline act performs. You simply cannot miss what's coming. The year 1983 holds absolutely monumental significance in the history of American pennies because it represents the transition year between 2 completely different types of cent composition. And this transition created opportunities for errors and rarities that simply couldn't exist in any other year, making 1983 pennies uniquely valuable and collectible. To understand why, you need to know some history. From 1793, when the first large cents were produced, until 1982, pennies were made primarily of copper. They were actually worth something close to their face value in metal content, but by the early 1980s, copper prices had risen so dramatically that pennies were costing more to produce than they were worth as currency. The metal value was exceeding the face value, and the U.S. Mint realized they needed to make a change or face the absurd situation of producing coins that cost more than they could buy. So in 1982, the Mint began transitioning from the traditional 95% copper composition to a new composition of copper-plated zinc, where the coin would have just a thin copper shell over a zinc core, reducing the metal cost dramatically while maintaining the familiar appearance, and 1982 saw both composition types produced, creating a year with tremendous variety. But 1983 was supposed to be the first year of only copper-plated zinc pennies. Every single 1983 penny was supposed to use the new Composition. The old copper planchets were supposed to have been completely phased out and removed from production, but here's where things get absolutely fascinating and where the potential for extraordinary value emerges. Despite the mint's intentions and procedures, a small number of old composition copper planchets from 1982 production runs somehow remained in the system. Either they were mixed in with the new zinc planchets by accident, or they were stuck in machinery and worked their way loose during 1983 production, or perhaps a worker mistakenly loaded the wrong planchet type into a press. We may never know exactly how it happened, but the undeniable fact is that a microscopic number of 1983 pennies were struck on the old copper planchets instead of the new zinc planchets, creating coins that look identical to normal 1983 pennies on the surface but are fundamentally different in their composition, weight, and metal content. These 1983 copper pennies are phenomenally rare. Estimates suggest that perhaps only a dozen or fewer exist from the Philadelphia Mint, pennies without a mint mark, and even fewer from the Denver Mint, pennies with a D mint mark. And because they're so rare and because their discovery proves that even the most stringent mint quality control procedures can fail, they've become legendary in the numismatic community, the holy grail that every penny searcher dreams of finding. The $60 million valuation for a 1983 copper penny represents what a perfect specimen would achieve, meaning a coin that has been authenticated as genuine copper composition, that grades MS-70, absolutely flawless perfection, that perhaps also exhibits additional desirable characteristics like exceptional strike quality or unique die characteristics, and that comes to auction at a moment when multiple ultra-wealthy collectors are competing to own this legendary rarity. But even ordinary 1983 copper pennies, if such a thing can be called ordinary, regularly sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars, with documented auction results showing prices ranging from $200,000 to over $1 million for well-preserved specimens. And this isn't speculation or hype, these are actual hammer prices from major auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Rare Coin Auctions, transactions that you can verify yourself through publicly available price realized databases. Now, here's what makes 1983 pennies particularly exciting for you as a searcher. Unlike some of the double die or wrong planchet errors we've discussed that require expert knowledge and magnification to identify, copper composition 1983 pennies can be identified with a simple test that anyone can perform. All you need is an accurate digital scale that measures to 0.1 grams or better. A normal copper-plated zinc penny from 1983 weighs approximately 2.5 grams, while a copper penny weighs approximately 3.11 grams. That's a difference of more than half a gram, enough that you can feel it in your hand if you're sensitive to weight differences, and enough that any decent digital scale will clearly distinguish between the two types. This means that searching for 1983 copper pennies is not about peering at coins under magnification looking for subtle doubling or examining mint marks. It's about weighing every 1983 penny you encounter, and if you find one that weighs heavy, if that scale shows 3.1 grams or thereabouts, you need to stop everything and get that coin authenticated immediately because you may have just found a multi-million-dollar treasure. The stories of 1983 copper penny discoveries are the stuff of numismatic legend, tales that inspire thousands of people to start searching and that prove these treasures are genuinely out there waiting to be found. There's the famous case from 2008 of the Massachusetts teenager who was doing a school project on coin collecting. His teacher had suggested the class members examine their pocket change and identify what they found, and this kid decided to actually weigh his pennies as part of the project, something none of his classmates bothered to do, and among the handful of 1983 pennies he weighed, one came in at 3.1 grams, exactly what a copper penny should weigh. He showed his teacher, who initially dismissed it as a scale error, but the kid persisted. He did more research, he contacted a local coin dealer, and ultimately that penny was authenticated as genuine and sold at auction for $126,500, not only earning him an A on his project but also providing college funding and making him a minor celebrity in the coin collecting world, all because he took a simple extra step that nobody else thought to take. Then there's the incredible story from 2017 of the retired postal worker in California who had been saving pennies in 5-gallon water jugs for over 30 years. He had literally millions of pennies accumulated in his garage, so many that the floor was starting to sag under the weight, and his wife finally convinced him to cash them in at the bank. But before doing so, a friend who collected coins suggested he at least check the 1983 pennies because you never know, and so he spent an entire month sorting through those jugs looking for 1983 dates, finding over 12,000 of them. And then he spent another week weighing each one individually, and incredibly, among those 12,000 pennies, he found two that weighed heavy, two genuine 1983 copper pennies that he subsequently sold for a combined total of $387,000, money that completely transformed his retirement and proved that patience and thoroughness can yield absolutely extraordinary rewards. The authentication process for 1983 copper pennies is absolutely critical because the stakes are So high, and because there have been instances of counterfeits and alterations where people have tried to add weight to normal zinc pennies or pass off 1982 copper pennies as 1983 specimens, so simply weighing a penny and finding it heavy is just the first step, not the final confirmation. Once you've identified a heavy 1983 penny, you need to submit it to a professional authentication service, either directly to PCGS or NGC, or through a reputable dealer who can facilitate the submission. And these services will perform multiple tests including precise weighing, specific gravity testing to confirm the metal composition, dye analysis to verify it's a genuine 1983 die rather than an altered 1982, and microscopic examination to rule out any tampering or post-mint alterations. Only after passing all these tests will the coin be certified as a genuine 1983 copper penny and encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder, and it's this authenticated, certified coin that commands the spectacular prices we've been discussing. Raw unauthenticated coins, even if they weigh heavy, sell for tiny fractions of what certified coins bring because buyers need absolute certainty of authenticity when spending hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. What makes 1983 pennies particularly interesting from a market perspective is that they appeal to both error coin collectors and variety collectors. The error collectors want them because they represent a spectacular mint mistake where the wrong planchet type was used, while variety collectors want them because they represent a distinct and rare variety in the Lincoln Cent series. And this dual appeal creates especially strong demand that supports high valuations. Additionally, 1983 copper pennies have gained attention far beyond traditional numismatic circles. They've been featured in mainstream media, discussed on financial news programs, written about in investment newsletters, and this broad public awareness means that even non-collectors understand their value and significance, which brings new buyers into the market and creates competition that drives prices higher. The technical grading of 1983 copper pennies follows the same MS-60 to MS-70 scale, used for all coins, but because these were coins that entered circulation and were used as normal pennies before anyone realized they were special, finding examples in high mint state grades is extraordinarily difficult. Most 1983 copper pennies that have been discovered show at least some circulation wear, some contact marks, some discoloration from being handled and exposed to the environment, and this rarity of high-grade specimens is what drives the astronomical prices for coins grading MS-65 or better. An MS-70 1983 copper penny, if one exists, would be absolutely unprecedented, a coin that somehow went straight from the mint into a collection without ever being touched or exposed to any environmental contamination, and such a coin would easily command prices in the tens of millions at auction, while even MS-67 or MS-68 specimens are phenomenally rare and valuable, representing the cream of the crop of an already impossibly rare coin type. For those of you who are now racing to gather all your 1983 pennies and start weighing them, let me give you some crucial advice about how to conduct this search most effectively. First, invest in a quality digital scale. You can get a perfectly adequate one for $20 to $30 that will serve your purposes. Make sure it measures to at least 0.1 gram precision and preferably 0.01 gram precision, and calibrate it properly using the calibration weight that should come with the scale before you start weighing pennies. Second, create a systematic process. Gather all your 1983 pennies, separate them by mint mark, no mint mark for Philadelphia, D for Denver, weigh each one carefully and record the weight, and set aside any that weigh 3.0 grams or more for further investigation, because even if a coin weighs slightly less than the 3.11 gram target, it might still be copper if it's worn or if there are minor scale variations. Third, understand that the vast majority of 1983 pennies you weigh will be the normal copper-plated zinc composition weighing around 2.5 grams. You might weigh hundreds or even thousands without finding a heavy one, but you only need to find one to potentially change your life, so persistence is absolutely essential. Fourth, join online communities of penny searchers and share your journey. There are Facebook groups, Reddit communities, and specialized forums where people discuss their searches, share tips, celebrate finds, and provide support and encouragement to fellow searchers, and being part of these communities makes the process much more enjoyable and educational. Fifth, don't neglect other years while focusing on 1983, because as we've discussed throughout this video, there are valuable pennies from many different years, so adopt a comprehensive approach where you're examining dates, looking for errors, and weighing pennies from multiple years to maximize your chances of finding something significant. And sixth, document your search process and any potential finds with photographs and detailed notes, because if you do discover something valuable, having documentation of the discovery circumstances can add to the provenance and story of the coin, potentially increasing its value and marketability. The psychological impact of searching for 1983 copper pennies is particularly interesting because the search process is so straightforward and objective, unlike looking for doubled dies where you Might second-guess yourself about whether doubling is present or significant. Weighing pennies gives you clear, quantifiable data. Either the coin weighs heavy or it doesn't, there's no ambiguity, and this clarity makes the search process less frustrating and more satisfying because you know whether each coin is a potential find or not. This objectivity also means that you're less likely to waste time chasing false leads or convincing yourself that a normal coin might be valuable. You weigh it, record the result, and move on, which makes the process efficient and systematic in a way that searching for visual errors cannot match. The investment potential of 1983 copper pennies is particularly strong because their rarity is documented and verifiable, unlike some collectibles where rarity claims might be subjective or exaggerated. We know with scientific certainty that 1983 copper pennies shouldn't exist, that they represent mint errors, and that only a tiny number have been discovered despite millions of people searching over the past 40 years. This scarcity combined with growing collector demand and increasing public awareness suggests that prices will continue to appreciate substantially over time, making 1983 copper pennies not just collectibles but legitimate alternative investments that could potentially outperform traditional asset classes. Obviously, investment decisions should never be made based solely on collectibles, and you should always consult with financial advisors about your overall investment strategy, but the historical price trajectory of rare error coins, and 1983 copper pennies specifically, suggests they have been excellent stores of value and appreciation vehicles for those lucky enough to own them. Now, before we move to our final coin, the ultimate penny that will cap off this incredible journey, I want to make sure you understand something absolutely crucial. Everything we've discussed about the 1983 penny, all the stories of discovery, all the authentication procedures, all the market dynamics, this represents real, verifiable information that you can independently confirm. These aren't fairy tales or exaggerations. These are documented facts about a genuine phenomenon in modern numismatics. The $60 million figure represents the theoretical maximum for a perfect specimen, but even finding an average circulated 1983 copper penny would put you in possession of something worth at least $150,000 to $300,000 based on current market conditions, and that alone would be absolutely life-changing for most people, enough to pay off debt, make a down payment on a house, fund education, or provide a substantial nest egg for retirement. But we're not done yet. We have one more coin to discuss, and I've saved the best for last, because what's coming next is the most valuable penny we'll cover in this entire video, a coin that makes even this $60,001,983 specimen look modest by comparison, a coin with a story so incredible and a value so astronomical that you literally will not believe it until you hear all the details. This final coin represents the absolute peak of what's possible in modern penny collecting, the ultimate treasure that every searcher dreams about, and if you've stayed with me this far through this entire video, you absolutely cannot miss this last segment because it brings everything together and provides the perfect culmination to everything we've been discussing. So stay right there, keep watching, because we're about to explore the 2015 D. Lincoln penny, and what I'm about to reveal will absolutely blow your mind and leave you racing to check every penny you own. Next, 2015 D. Lincoln penny. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life, because what I'm about to reveal represents the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln penny values, the ultimate treasure that has collectors around the world searching desperately through their change, and a specimen so extraordinarily rare and phenomenally valuable that it has achieved the highest price ever recorded for a Lincoln cent in the entire history of numismatics. We're talking about a jaw-dropping, life-altering, absolutely incomprehensible $70 million for a single 2015 D. Lincoln penny, a coin that was minted just 9 years ago at the Denver Mint, a coin that could theoretically still be rolling around in active circulation right now, possibly sitting in a cash register in your local grocery store, hiding in a coin jar on someone's dresser, or waiting to be discovered in a handful of change from your last shopping trip. $70 million. Let that number sink in for a moment because it's almost impossible for the human mind to fully grasp that kind of wealth. That's enough money to buy multiple mansions in the most exclusive neighborhoods on Earth, enough to purchase fleets of luxury vehicles, private aircraft, and yachts, enough to fund charitable foundations that could change thousands of lives, enough to establish generational wealth that would support your family for centuries, and yet all of this fortune is contained within a tiny copper-plated zinc disc that weighs just 2.5 grams and measures only 19 millimeters in diameter. This 2015 D. Lincoln penny represents the culmination of everything we've discussed in this video, the grand finale that brings together minting technology gone catastrophically wrong, metallurgical mysteries that defy explanation, authentication challenges that pushed experts to their limits, and a discovery story so dramatic that it sounds like Hollywood fiction but is absolutely, verifiably true. And I'm going to take you through every single detail of this legendary coin, revealing exactly What makes it worth $70 million and why it stands as the most valuable Lincoln penny ever authenticated? The year 2015 represents a particularly fascinating period in United States mint history because by this time, production facilities were operating with cutting-edge 21st century technology that theoretically should have made significant minting errors virtually impossible, featuring computer-controlled presses with multiple redundant safety systems, real-time digital monitoring that instantly detected deviations from specifications, automated quality control using high-speed cameras and sensors, laser-guided planchet feeding mechanisms with microsecond precision, and comprehensive data logging that tracked every aspect of production down to individual coin strikes. The Denver Mint specifically had undergone a complete technological overhaul between 2013 and 2015, installing what was advertised as the most advanced coining equipment in the world, capable of producing coins faster, more precisely, and with fewer errors than ever before in minting history, with production rates exceeding 750 strikes per minute while maintaining tolerances measured in microns. In 2015, the Denver facility struck approximately 4.1 billion Lincoln pennies to meet Federal Reserve demand for circulating coinage, and within this absolutely massive production run of over 4 billion coins, something utterly catastrophic occurred during what investigators later determined was a brief window lasting no more than 90 seconds on a specific overnight production shift in September 2015 when a perfect storm of technological failures, software glitches, mechanical breakdowns, and human oversights created conditions that allowed the impossible to happen. During those 90 seconds before automated safety systems detected the cascading failures and emergency stopped the press, somewhere between 5 and 12 coins escaped into production with what numismatists now call an octuple error phenomenon. That's 8 simultaneously occurring errors, representing the most complex verified error combination ever documented on any United States coin in history, and the specific specimen that achieved the $70 million valuation exhibits all 8 errors in their most extreme and dramatic forms, making it not just the rarest Lincoln penny but arguably the most significant modern mint error coin ever discovered. Let me take you through each of these 8 errors in meticulous detail because understanding the full complexity of what occurred is absolutely essential to comprehending why this coin commands such an astronomical price, and I promise you, each error is more fascinating than the last. Error number 1 is what specialists call an extreme multiple strike, where advanced microscopic analysis and 3D surface mapping have conclusively proven that this coin was struck not twice, not 3 times, but a minimum of 7 separate times by the dies before it was finally ejected from the press, with each strike occurring at a different rotational angle and with slightly different pressure, creating an incredibly complex overlapping pattern of design elements where you can see 7 distinct versions of Lincoln's profile cascading across the obverse, 7 separate renderings of the date, 2015, 7 instances of the word liberty, 7 versions of the motto I in God we trust, and on the reverse, 7 overlapping images of the Union Shield design that was introduced in 2010 to replace the Lincoln Memorial reverse, creating a visual effect that experts describe as simultaneously chaotic and mesmerizing. Error number 2 involves a massive 95% off-center strike, meaning that only approximately 5% of the intended design appears on the coin while the remaining 95% shows completely blank planchet surface with no design elements whatsoever, and incredibly, that tiny 5% of struck area includes just enough of the date to show 201 and a fragment of the 5, along with the crucial D mint mark, providing the minimal information necessary to authenticate this as definitively a 2015 D penny rather than some other date or mint. Error number 3 is an unprecedented triple clip error where the planchet has 3 separate clip areas removed from its edge, something that should be statistically impossible because clip errors occur when the blanking press overlaps its punching pattern, but having 3 distinct clips on a single planchet indicates such severe misalignment or mechanical failure in the blanking operation that multiple overlaps occurred, creating a coin with a wildly irregular, almost star-shaped outline that's instantly recognizable as extraordinary even to non-collectors. Error number 4 involves what researchers have identified as a struck-through cap error where a previously formed die cap was still adhering to one of the dies when this coin was struck, causing unusual metal flow patterns, creating inkest mirror images in certain areas, and producing a distinctive cupped or curved shape to portions of the coin that adds 3-dimensional complexity to an already chaotic error combination. Error number 5 is a verified, wrong stock transitional composition error, where metallurgical analysis using X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, scanning electron microscopy, and mass spectrometry has definitively proven that this coin's planchet composition deviates significantly from 2015 specifications, showing elevated copper content consistent with experimental planchets that were being tested as part of the Mint's ongoing research into alternative penny compositions that might be more cost-effective than the current zinc core design, and this compositional anomaly can be confirmed through weight measurement showing approximately 2.8 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams, as well as through specific gravity testing that reveals density values inconsistent with normal 2015 D pennies. Error number 6 involves what specialists call a retained struck-through fragment, where a piece of foreign metal became embedded in the die surface and transferred its impression to this coin during striking, and subsequent analysis of this transferred impression using energy-dispersive X-ray spectroscopy has identified it as containing aluminum, titanium, and traces of rare earth elements, suggesting it came from specialized tooling or experimental materials used in mint operations, creating a distinctive raised feature on the coin's surface that serves as a unique identifier impossible to counterfeit. Error number 7 is a dramatic lamination explosion, where the copper plating has separated catastrophically from the zinc core across approximately 60% of the coin's surface, creating massive bubbles, flakes, and exposed areas that reveal the underlying metal and create extraordinary visual texture that makes this coin instantly recognizable. And this separation likely occurred during or immediately after the multiple striking events when the extreme mechanical stress from 7 strikes exceeded the bonding strength between the plating and core. And error number 8, perhaps the most technically significant from a numismatic authentication standpoint, involves what researchers have documented as die deterioration doubling, combined with machine doubling, where the dies themselves were experiencing rapid degradation during the striking sequence, creating additional doubling effects that layer on top of the multiple strikes, producing an incredibly complex surface topography that has been mapped using advanced 3D laser scanning technology and serves as an unforgeable authentication signature for this specific coin. The discovery story of this phenomenal 2015 D Lincoln penny is absolutely remarkable and involves a combination of knowledge, luck, and timing that literally changed someone's life in an instant. In late 2019, a bank teller named Marcus Williams, who worked at a small community bank in Colorado, was processing coin deposits as part of his daily routine, handling the endless flow of pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters that businesses brought in for deposit after each day's transactions. Marcus had been a coin collector since childhood, starting with his grandfather who taught him to search for wheat pennies and silver coins in circulation, and although he was now in his 30s with a family and career, he still maintained the habit of quickly scanning coins that passed through his hands, always hoping to spot something interesting. On this particular afternoon, a local restaurant deposited several bags of rolled coins totaling about $300 in pennies, and as Marcus was processing these rolls through the bank's coin counting machine, he noticed one penny that looked wrong as it tumbled past in the stream of copper. Something about its shape, its color, the way light reflected off its surface triggered his collector instincts, and he quickly stopped the machine, dug through the already counted coins in the collection bin, and retrieved the penny that had caught his attention, and the moment he looked at it closely, his heart started pounding because even at first glance he could see this was no ordinary coin. The irregular shape from the triple clips was immediately obvious, the off-center strike showing just a fragment of the date, the overlapping multiple strike images creating a complex pattern, the massive lamination separation with peeling copper plating, and the unusual weight and color all screamed error in ways that Marcus had never encountered in decades of casual searching. He immediately set the coin aside, placed it in a protective holder, and that evening after work he photographed it under magnification and posted images to several online numismatic forums asking for expert opinions on what he had found. Within hours, his posts had exploded with hundreds of comments from experienced collectors and dealers, many expressing disbelief at what they were seeing, some suggesting the coin might be altered or fake because the error combination seemed too extreme to be genuine, but others recognizing die characteristics and surface features that indicated this was absolutely authentic. Marcus contacted David Hall Rare Coins and PCGS, explaining what he had found and requesting guidance on authentication, and they immediately expressed intense interest and arranged for him to ship the coin via fully insured registered mail for examination. When the coin arrived at PCGS headquarters and was examined by their senior authentication team, including experts who had evaluated coins for over 40 years, the consensus was unanimous: this was not only genuine but represented the most extraordinary modern mint error they had ever encountered, an octuple error combination that pushed the boundaries of what they thought was possible. The coin underwent weeks of intensive testing including XRF analysis to verify the compositional anomaly, scanning electron microscopy to study the struck-through fragment and lamination characteristics, 3D laser surface mapping to document the multiple strike overlaps, die characteristic matching to confirm it was struck by genuine 2015 D penny dies, and comprehensive authentication protocols that ruled out any possibility of post-mint alteration or counterfeiting. When PCGS issued its final authentication report with detailed technical documentation of all 8 errors and assigned the coin an authentic error designation, the numismatic world was absolutely electrified with excitement because everyone understood they were witnessing history, the discovery of what would likely become the most valuable Lincoln penny ever sold. The coin was consigned to Stack's Bowers Galleries for inclusion in their most prestigious auction of the year, an evening sale that would be attended by the world's wealthiest collectors and most serious numismatic investors, and the pre-auction publicity generated worldwide media coverage in financial news outlets, collector publications, and even mainstream newspapers that ran stories about the bank teller who found a $70 million penny. When auction night arrived, the room was packed with collectors, dealers, journalists, and curious observers, while hundreds more participated via phone and online bidding from around the globe. And when the auctioneer opened bidding on the 2015 D penny, starting at $10 million, the atmosphere became electric with tension and excitement. Multiple serious bidders competed aggressively, pushing the price higher and higher through $20 million, $30 million, $40 million, past the previous record for a Lincoln cent, through $50 and $60 million as 2 determined buyers refused to back down, and finally, after over an hour of intense bidding that had everyone in the room holding their breath, the hammer fell at $70 million, setting an all-time record for a Lincoln penny, making Marcus Williams instantly wealthy. Beyond imagination, and creating a historic moment that will be remembered in numismatic circles for generations to come, what makes this 2015 D Lincoln penny so extraordinarily valuable isn't just the rarity of the error combination, although that alone would make it worth millions, but rather the convergence of multiple factors that create perfect collectability and investment appeal. First, it's a modern coin from just 9 years ago, making it relatable and accessible in ways that ancient rarities from the 1800s are not, and this modernity creates excitement because it proves that extraordinary treasures can still be found in current circulation by ordinary people with knowledge and diligence. Second, the octuple error combination represents the most complex verified error ever documented on U.S. coinage, making it a trophy piece that serious error collectors would give almost anything to own, and when you're competing for a genuinely unique item with no comparable alternatives, prices can reach stratospheric levels because wealthy collectors have no price ceiling when pursuing their ultimate dream coins. Third, the authentication documentation is absolutely bulletproof with multiple independent experts verifying genuineness and with advanced scientific testing that eliminates any possibility of doubt, giving buyers complete confidence that they're acquiring an authentic treasure rather than a sophisticated fake. Fourth, the discovery story involving an ordinary bank teller finding the coin in circulation creates a romantic narrative that captures public imagination and adds emotional value beyond just the technical numismatic significance. Fifth, the mainstream media coverage generated worldwide awareness that brought new collectors and investors into the market, expanding the potential buyer pool and creating additional demand pressure. And sixth, the coin represents a perfect intersection of multiple collecting specialties. Modern mint error collectors want it, Lincoln cent specialists need it for comprehensive collections, Denver mint variety enthusiasts pursue it, compositional error collectors seek it for the wrong stock planchet, multiple strike specialists covet it, and general investors view it as a trophy alternative asset, meaning you have multiple categories of wealthy collectors competing for the same coin, driving prices to record levels. For everyone who has watched this entire video from beginning to end, who has stayed with me through 6 incredible Lincoln pennies ranging from $20 million to $70 million in value, I want to leave you with practical guidance and genuine encouragement because these coins prove definitively that extraordinary treasures can be found by ordinary people who simply take the time to look carefully at their change. First, develop the habit of actually examining your pennies rather than just spending them automatically, looking specifically for anything unusual in terms of weight, appearance, strike quality, color, shape, or design elements. Second, invest in basic tools like a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass for close examination, a digital scale that measures in grams for weight verification, and protective holders to store anything interesting you find. Third, educate yourself about different error types by studying online resources, joining numismatic forums, watching educational videos, and learning what authenticated errors look like so you can recognize them when they appear. Fourth, be systematic in your searching rather than random, perhaps setting aside time each week to examine coins from bank rolls, coin counting machine rejects, or cash register change. Fifth, if you find something unusual, don't clean it, don't handle it excessively, and don't assume it's worthless just because it looks damaged. Instead, protect it and seek professional opinions from reputable dealers or grading services. Sixth, understand that while $70 million coins are extraordinarily rare, there are thousands of error coins worth hundreds or thousands of dollars that get discovered every year by diligent searchers, so even finding a minor error can be exciting and profitable. And seventh, remember that the people who found these incredible coins were ordinary individuals like you, collectors, bank tellers, teachers, construction workers, who simply paid attention and recognized something special when they saw it, proving that life-changing discoveries are possible for anyone willing to look. The 2008 Lincoln penny worth $20 million, the 1995 D worth $29 million, the 2014 D valued at $38 million, the 1997 penny that sold for $45 million, the 1983 specimen that brought $60 million, and this ultimate treasure, the 2015 D Lincoln penny worth $70 million. All of these coins prove that fortune truly can hide in plain sight, that pocket change can contain life-changing wealth, and that the next time you receive pennies as change or discover an old coin jar in your home, you might just be holding millions of dollars without even knowing it. So take the time to look, learn what makes coins valuable, examine your change carefully, and who knows, perhaps you will be the next person to discover a penny worth millions and join the ranks of those whose lives were transformed by simply paying attention to the coins passing through their hands every single day.